Welcome to More Details, Please, with your hosts Emmanuel and Angela Williams, where we dive deeper into conversations with visionary entrepreneurs to discover what it takes to turn passion into purpose. Listen to real-world stories from self-starters and trailblazers, and discover strategies and innovations shaping a greener future. Whether you are a seasoned business person or just starting out, let this be your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable tips for success. Join us now as we create a brighter, greener future together.
Hello and welcome to More Details, Please. This podcast is for chasing your passion and purpose. I'm Angela Williams.
And Emmanuel Williams.
And we're so happy to have you here today. We are excited because we have a fantastic guest that you're going to hear from in just a little bit. His name is Jacob. So we're so excited to have Jacob on the show where we're going to be talking about innovation is for life, not just for startups. Innovation is forever. So it's one of those things where you can never stop innovating. That's important. We've saw some companies that decided not to innovate and they are no longer in business. So Emmanuel, tell us about your excitement about innovation.
Well, I am just so excited about the guest that we have on, Jacob. He's a very innovative type guy. And this podcast is for entrepreneurs that turn their passion into purpose. And your passion is something that you enjoy, something that you enthusiast, something that you really love doing. And purpose is utilizing your God-gifted talents and ability to serve a greater good that's bigger than yourself. And this gentleman that we have coming on today, he did just that. He had a passion. He turned his passion into a purpose. And he is now are able to help so many people all the way down the road. I mean, from now on. And I have some other ideas about his invention and the things that he has created to help other people. So yes, we are excited. And this is what our podcast is all about. And it's looking at entrepreneurs from a different perspective and just kind of figuring out what is it that makes them tick? What is it that makes them who they are? And what is it that makes them able to overcome those barriers and continue to keep pushing through until they get what they're out for?
Yes, as we alluded to, we're going to hear from Jacob Soter. He's the founder and managing director of SwimSmart Technologies in Marquette, Michigan. He's done some fantastic stuff, and he has a lot of people that believe in him. So let's share some of the details. When people hear innovation, they usually think invention. They usually think brand new technology or huge breakthroughs. But Emmanuel can tell you, innovation is not that at all.
Well, innovation, it is a outcome that comes from a modality. And a modality is an underlying frequency that flows into what you do. And that underlying frequency flows from a place of creativity. It flows from a place of innovation. It flows from a place of positivity. And to be able to connect and to tap into that space within inside of you, to be able to manifest and to be able to come up with ideas and bring them to life and being able to bring them to life in a way where it can serve other people. I think that innovative part is what intrigues me the most.
Yeah, I want to say this. Now, Emmanuel is an inventor, as is Jacob. So it's not that it's not done by an inventor creating an invention, but innovation doesn't have to be flashy. A lot of times it's simply taking what already works and make it a better.
Well, one of the things that I always refer back to when it comes to invention and things of that nature is Einstein. You know, I really admire him because he's been able to create so many creative things of bringing into life and figuring things out in a way that nobody has ever done before. And one of the things when you study Einstein, he tapped into his creative side and he are able to go into this present mode, this aware present mode by slowing his thoughts down, slowing everything down and being able to tap into that creativity long enough to be able to see what comes from that space. And he's able to tap into that creativity side and bring whatever that is into the world. And one of the things that he said is that a lot of professors that don't have the ability to create is not because they know how to think, it's because they don't know how to think. to be able to stop and create space and slow everything down and go into a meditative mode and see what's in there. And it's a very fun thing to do. And that's kind of what I've done as well, in terms of my creativity. It was it had very little to do with what I'm thinking, but it had more everything to do with the peace that I found, the joy that I found, and being able to stay in that space of present awareness. And then it's just amazing what comes from that space.
That is so funny you said slow down, and I feel like I need to do that right now at this moment. But it also makes me think about the difference between creativity and innovation. Creativity is the idea. Innovation is when that idea actually becomes something useful. So we're solving a problem. The great thing about business is we are solving some problem. If you're in business and you're not solving some problem, I would suggest go into a quiet room, meditate about it, and figure out what business problem can you solve, because that's where true creativity comes from. There's a problem and you find a way to solve it.
Well, one of the things that I find interesting is that we are born with these creative ideas inside of us already, just waiting to be born. And a lot of it, when you start really thinking back, it started with our childhood. It started with our environment in which we grew up in. And it's funny because subconsciously, which is a big part of understanding where creativity comes from, those ideas germinate from us, maybe even in the womb of our parents. So as we get older and we start people say, well, how did you come up with this? How did it's not that you came up with it. It was that you was able to tap into a power within yourself that I think we all have access to if we know how to connect to it, that those things starts to come up. And fortunately, a lot of us can understand and see the synchronicities and can see how just different things starts to come together. And the geniusness of it, and we all have it in us, is that our ability to be able to pull those things together and then come up with this innovative, creative idea that the world now starts to use.
Yeah, innovation, it takes effort, and it takes some quiet time. And Emmanuel alluded to this earlier, that you have to find that quiet time in a very noisy world. There's always something to do. There's some issue to take care of. There's some challenges to manage. There's a strategy to create. But to be able to be truly be creative, to get to the point where you can innovate a product or service or business model, both which are important, both new and something that you can take that existed already and making it better is important. But the only way you can get there is to create some silence.
And it's funny because silence is not just sitting still. You could be walking down the street and be silent and still be alert. I give you an example of innovation. When you got a Tiger Woods that is on the ninth hole and can be still enough and be present and aware enough to hit that ball. He's just swinging a golf ball, a club, and hit that ball and can imagine where that ball where that ball want to go, and that ball go right into that exact spot. That's innovation. When you got an athlete when it's 1 second or he jump up in the air to make a basket and he don't know how people are going to come and try to stop him, and he moved within that little split second to do what he wanted to do. That's innovation. And it's not just being able to think about something and create something. We are constantly creating. We're constantly innovating. And that is a part of the evolution of us as human beings. And that is a part of our superpower that I'm really encouraging so many people to tap into. And it doesn't matter whether you're singing a song or creating, washing a car, or whatever it is that you may do. That creative side is a part of us, and that is a part of your evolution. And that is part, I think, of finding your purpose. And that's where you're going to create the joy and the love and abundance that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think one of the misnomers in business is that after the startup phase, you figured that you got everything figured out. All right, I got it all figured out. And the business is up and running. Customers are coming in, systems are in place. There's really nothing else for me to innovate because I got what I need. But I would ask you to think very carefully about companies like Blockbuster. Blockbuster had a model that worked. We got Blockbuster movies and we had to make sure we rewind them and turn them back in. But Blockbuster didn't see the handwriting on the wall that people were going to get to what we do now. You got smart TVs and streaming and all of those things that made it so much easier to watch your favorite movie, right, Maya?
Yeah, this we're moving with the new technology that's coming up. We're moving so fast. And one of the things that I hope our listening audience, especially from entrepreneurs, get is from this is you gotta slow down to speed up. Things are moving so fast is that you don't want to lose yourself in the of all of the things that needs to be done, that's got to be done, that's changing, that's moving. Because when you lose yourself in that, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, I mean, you lose your ability to be quiet, to be still, to go into that present moment, to tap into that peaceful place that really is the source of everything and all to give you the nourishment, the creativity, the innovation to really overcome and solve your problems. Because you get caught up in the tidal wave of life, you lose yourself and you no longer have the ability to sustain and you're going to continue to run into circles.
But that's exactly when innovation becomes even more important because staying adaptable is what keeps you in business long term. And it's also what keeps you growing after the startup phase. Because let's face it, innovation isn't just for startups, it's a skill. It's something you practice over time by listening, improving, testing, and staying open to change.
Well, it's funny because I'm a very innovative person.
Yes, he
And
is.
even to this day, I can't tell you how I did what I did. I know how to do it, but I can't tell you how I did what I did. I did what I did by waking up, being in dreams. And it's like everything the impulse and the intuitiveness that I follow, it worked. It was like, wow, this is like really incredible. And it's funny because I didn't even really know what I was trying to innovate. One of the things that in my innovation is that I'm the engineer. I deal with steam and turbines and things of that nature. I had no idea about the car washing industry. And that's one of the things that slows people down or prevents people from moving forward is that you can be innovative in the industry that you have no idea about. And it's funny because that's the best place to look, the best place to be because you're not looking at it from a perspective of how everybody is used to looking at it. It's like you're looking at it from a baby's eye view, from a baby's eye viewpoint, because you don't know. You can come in and ask this very complex question when you got all of these scientists and different people that is trying to focus on trying to figure it out. And you walk in and you look, it's like, well, what is that for? Shouldn't that be this? And that is something that nobody even really thought about. So when you talk about innovation, like I said, is one thing to have a thought and it's another thing to be aware. It's two different things. Awareness and a thought is different. In your awareness is where aware and watching your thoughts and able to see your emotions. That's your awareness. It's sort of like a more wiser part of you. And in that space of looking at things, that is getting closer to your ability to be able to connect to that source for innovation. So for me, it was following the impulse inside of me. It was moving on those synchronicities and trying to understand. And then the next thing you know, the idea will come together in a way where you was like, yep, this is exactly what, not exactly, this is more than what you was trying to figure out because it's like, wow, how did I come up with this piece of cake? So that's innovation is very interesting, powerful modality that I think we all need to be able to tap into.
Yeah, because the world keeps moving. Customers' expectations change, technology changes, the economy shifts, and what we worked for or what worked well for us 5 years ago, in our case, 25 years ago, might not work the same way today. I would say it doesn't work the same way today. So, innovation after the startup phase isn't about reinventing everything, it's about staying sharp. It's about asking, how can we do this better? What's slowing us down? What do customers need now? So, what does innovation actually look like once you're past the startup phase? So, for detail experts, it's small upgrades. Talk about it, Emmanuel.
Well, it is going for a run and something comes to you. Because really, as an entrepreneur, you're always kind of in that thinking mode. And it's very important to have your peace. It's very important to be able to eat the right foods. It's very important to work out and take care of yourself because it comes through you. And if you're blogged up and got negative energy and thinking negative and hard emotion, it's hard. You become your own worst enemy. And so how this technology innovation look as we evolve from detail expert, we got some wonderful projects that we're working on utilizing our STEAM technology. We got some wonderful projects that we're working on when it comes to operational management system. And then on the other end, when it comes to the steam equipment and the steamers and trying to repair them, whatever, I was like, wow, this is another idea that we have that we're working on. Powerful. We went from steam cleaning vehicles. Now we're in a process of steam cleaning water. Now, who would think about something like that? Steam cleaning water to make water clean and safe to drink all over the world using these little pieces of these prototype equipment that we are building. So it's being in that laboratory and it's being present in a present moment and it's our ability to stay in that present moment. And so innovation is always a constant and it's really important. I tell you this, those of us who are innovators, you got to be careful about making sure that you're around people that's going to help enhance or help courage because everybody can't see the same thing that you see. The only time that they're gonna see it is when it start working and it start making money. Then everybody gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, you were so smart. You were so." But when you're in that process of starting up and you say, "Hey, I want to run this for you," and somebody say, "That don't make no sense," or "I wouldn't do that if I was you," or "That just sounds stupid." Innovative people, you have to be able to realize that that is something that you have to make sure you don't share your vision with unless it's somebody that's going to be encouraging. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't like have some type of idea to say, well, maybe you can do it this way, or maybe you can do it that way, or this will make it better. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that you got to be careful because the negativity piece of your innovation, the vibration of that negative piece can really hinder your ability to be creative and be open and be feeling good and be happy because it'll create some resistance. So you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, everybody is not going to be on your journey with you or believe. I just want to go back real quick. When it comes to innovation, yes, it's technology, and we are big on that. In fact, I would say at Detail Experts, that is one of our unique selling propositions of the latest and the greatest and making sure that we can provide eco friendly solutions in all ways. But integration is small upgrades like better systems, smarter tools, is a decision that we make to make our business run smoother. And even if that is creating quality control checklists or things like that, that is also important in innovation and creativity. So, how do we keep improving? How do we keep refining our process? And how do we keep delivering a better cleaning experience for our customers year after year? Those are the things that are really important to us and we focus on all the time. So, it's looking at how do we improve our training for our employees? A well trained employee is going to do a much better job for our customers. Our customers are going to be happy. So, like Emmanuel said earlier, streamlining operations is important, even if it's modernizing how we communicate in the marketplace. So, I love this conversation and can't wait to have Jacob join us to share about his innovation. Hi,
Hi there.
Jacob. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for your time.
We're so happy to have you. Again, Jacob is the founding and managing director of SwimSmart Technologies, LLC. He's in Marquette, Michigan. And your innovation, Jason, is smart beach safety stations that help prevent drownings by giving people real time warnings about water conditions.
Yeah. So, what we do is water safety technology. So, we implement a lot of modern technology to try and keep people safe at the beach. Really, the main thing we do is public warnings. So, before people go to the beach, we want to warn them of dangerous situations or dangerous conditions so that they could maybe make different decisions, maybe not get in the water, put themselves in harm's way. Another thing we do is electronically triggered life ring cabinets. So there's life ring cabinets that people use for water rescues. And when someone opens that cabinet, it sets off an alarm and it'll notify 911 that it's been opened. So this allows people at the beach to both have information in real time, but also then if something does happen, they can actually deploy the equipment, make a rescue, and 911 can be informed to hopefully get them there faster. So I really appreciate the monologue you did. There's a lot of similarities to my story that you were talking about on innovation. And I'm just really excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much because one of the things that I saw that the system that you built that was on a beach to warn and alert people of situations and conditions, it had three lights. And it's funny because we're so custom and used to red, green, and yellow lights. And we automatically see a green light to go, a yellow light to slow down, and a red light to stop. And when I saw that on the beach, I saw how we was already accustomed to reacting to that. And that was really interesting to me because I was like, wow, I think that that is a wonderful idea, number one. But then people are already trained
Hmm.
psychologically to be able to react to those different lights, when it comes to them reacting to something. So tell me, how did this? I know you're an engineer. I mean, I know certain things, but how did this all come about?
Yeah. So actually, I was a college student, and you brought up being a new person in a room, and kind of throwing out crazy ideas. That's exactly what happened. I was a young college student, and we were working on projects. We got basically pulled into a conference called the Great Lakes Water Safety Consortium. So it's a group of experts, scientists, other scientists, all sorts of people that have been doing it for 30 plus years, that were discussing different topics, challenges in the region of keeping people safe. And there's a lot. We have a lot of coastline in the Great Lakes, and they can actually be pretty dangerous sometimes. But one of them they kept coming back to that we were listening on this presentation was the beach flag system. So anybody that lives on the coasts might know that your fire department or police department puts out a flagpole or puts out a flag on a flagpole. It may be red, yellow, or green, and they'll change that almost every day, all season. So when the weather changes, somebody in the fire department or the lifeguard or whoever has to go out and change that flag. And really, that was the point of contention at this conference. At the time, I was 21, 22, just sitting in listening to this, and people were really animated. They were very angry. They were like, we need to get on the same page because if we don't all speak the same language, if we don't all communicate the same way about the dangers of the lake through a cloth flag, then it's going to work against us because some beaches have it, some beaches don't. So that's kind of where, as an outsider, we were looking at it and we were like, well, why not just do like anything else? Why not just do a traffic light or make it electronic, right? So really, it came out of sort of that ignorance. Was like, well, I don't understand. Is there a reason they're doing flags? Um, and then ultimately the solution came to be. It's as crazy as it sounds, but really it was a simple little improvement, and I guess just nobody else had the determination or stubbornness to do it. So that's kind of where I found myself today.
Well, I love that, and I love that story because we was just talking about looking at things from a baby eye point of view,
Mhm.
where everybody is trying to figure something. So you was that kid that was just in there like, wait a minute, what are y'all talking about? Why don't y'all just do this, and then everything will be pretty much solved. Now that's the beginning stage, which is great because I just think you need to keep that in mind because that's that creative part of you that is a God gifted privilege to have. But the second part of it is that you was able to manifest it and make it a reality. That's another whole different skill set. So how did you end up like who helped you or how did you get the money? How did it all come about?
Yeah, that's actually a long saga, and it was different phases. The beginning stages was literally crowdfunding. It was family and friends and just people, professors. Actually, my business partner was my professor in school. Our first investors were our parents. So it kind of grew from an idea where we were just young kids trying to, try something new and see what would stick. And then over time, it sort of takes a village to start a business. I really believe that. So it starts with your community. Your community has a vested interest in the business growing for the benefit of the community and also to save people's lives. But, our region is very supportive. So I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's a very tight knit, small community in the UP, and they really take care of one another. They want to see the businesses succeed, whether it's funding or finding people a talent or breaking down barriers. Really, that's what helps get a business to the next phase is you don't have to do it alone. And if anything, if you try, it's going to be a rough time. It's finding people that have been through the same situations you've been through and sort of learning from them. A lot of people that have gone through this process, they want to educate the next generation of entrepreneurs, right? They don't want to see you struggle or make simple mistakes that one conversation with the right person could save you a year of headache, quite literally. And in my early stages, to be honest, I've gone through some of those. And if I would have just talked to the right person or had the right person in my circle, could have went around it. So yeah, it really just comes down to, the different stages, different people will sort of come to your aid to help you get through it. But really it's about, focusing on building that community, whether it's locally, your friends and family, or even, a bunch of investors and partners, other companies you work with and customers and things like that. And it goes through evolutions over time.
And I think one of the powerful things about your innovation is it's helping everybody. It is something that everybody can agree on that is what is needed. It's something that everybody agrees on, that this is a great idea and this is going to be something that we can use from now on. And so tell me, when there was a time, or if there was a time when you felt like, nah, I'm just going to give up. This is just not going to work. And what did you do to get beyond that barrier?
That never happens.
Yeah, that I don't remember that happening. No, we've been through some tough times for sure. And the beginning stages, it was kind of lonely. I was kind of doing it on my own. And I thought I had to figure it out myself. And that, I think, learning that that's not the case, that you have people you can turn to. Because the thing with entrepreneurship versus working in a big company, and I'm sure people feel this way too, working in a big company, is sometimes you don't know who to turn to. But when you have a mentor or you have coworkers and colleagues that can help you, it really makes work and life easier. In entrepreneurship, it can feel like you're literally alone. You're fighting against the world, but that's not the case. The case is that there are other entrepreneurs that are your colleagues. They may not work for you or maybe even with you, but they are there to support you. So really, I think one of the things that helped me get through some of really tough times we've had was just talking to other entrepreneurs, talking to our mentors, people that can kind of sit you down and say, hey, this isn't that big of a deal. I know you're freaking out, but this, in the grand scheme of things, you're going to make it through this. And really, it helps kind of ground you, and understand that sometimes bad things happen when trying to start a business. It's not always to the moon skyrocketing. It can be bumpy, but really the determination and having a good support network around you can really help you get through some difficult times. And we've been through, I could list a whole book of mistakes we've made, setbacks we've had. We pretty much had them all, but tapping into those support networks have really helped. And the other thing for me personally, you were discussing, slowing down and eating right. And so that was actually a recent, I guess, kind of personal transformation I've had, where the past about 2 years, I take time every day to walk my 10,000 steps. And I have a desk job, so I get about 500 to 1,000 steps a day if I do not do that. So actually taking an hour to an hour and a half to walk every day has really given me that time to kind of just like shut my brain off from all of the noise, the daily fires I have to put out every day or the problem of the month or what have you. It kind of lets me take a step back. And that is very literally where some of my best ideas come, is because I'm kind of like in a new world where I can focus on one thing. And when you're exercising, you're working your body and your mind. So it's a big de-stressor. I would say that more than anything has really helped me kind of get through some tough times, is the ability to unplug from work,
Hmm.
unplug from the stress and just kind of focus on something else. And if you're constantly in the work mode, it's very difficult to do that and it can be demoralizing. So I think that, taking time, assigning time every day to take a step back is important, especially if you're a high, very high standard executive or an entrepreneur or whatever, and you feel like you need every minute. You're actually doing yourself a disservice by not taking a step back and evaluating.
Jacob, that was right on point. The thing that jumped into my mind, you started SwimSmart in the height of COVID in 2020.
Yeah, we did. I actually, so I had a job offer for the I respect for the company. I won't name the company, but it was a great company, a great offer. And I was just graduating college and I had to make a decision. And I was really, kind of looking for a sign of what to do. And as terrible the pandemic was, there's one thing that it brought me, which was the job offer got rescinded. So it made it pretty easy for me to like, okay, maybe SwimSmart is what I'm meant to do. Now they actually brought the offer letter back, but by that time I kind of mentally saw it that it was the right move for me and that I should, you know, go into entrepreneurship.
Say that
And
one
this
more
is
time.
something that I think is important. And SwimSmart was something I actually worked on far before I started the company in, I think, 2020, 2019 during COVID. We worked on it for about 3, 4 years before that. So it was a long time coming. And then everything kind of came to a head at once. And then we started the company.
So you're well past that early stage, and just getting started. I would love to hear, what does innovation look like after that startup phase?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that you really can't stop trying to innovate and stop trying to, rethink things and make things better. Because I think your example of Blockbuster was very good. That when you kind of stop innovating, your customers could always go to someone else, right? Just because you made a sale or made a relationship, as much as they like you personally, at the end of the day, it's about solving their problems, and if somebody can do that better, they may break the contract, they may go with someone else. So really, and to be honest, we just went through this as well, where we thought we had it all figured out. We thought our client base, we know what they need, we've got the solution, and it's not always necessarily, a change in times. It could be a different location, a different region, a different culture. People do things different around the world, and your idea in one spot may not work somewhere else. So really just sort of the big thing is kind of asking good questions, getting in a room with people in that area and try to understand what their problems mean to them and how an actual solution could be made. So being flexible too, like you could have a solution, you've innovated it, you created it, but you deploy it somewhere else, it doesn't work at all. So innovation could mean retooling what you have to fit a new space, right? It could mean maybe adding or removing things to meet a certain problem statement. And so really innovating is something that I think we take the most seriously as a business, is that for a company of our size and our age, we are constantly trying to push the bounds of technology and new products and services, and new ways of thinking and doing things so that we can solve as many problems as possible. And so yeah, innovation to us is probably one of the cornerstones of our business.
So, Jacob, one of the things that we notice in our research about SwimSmart, it is clearly built for real world conditions, not just the ideal for the beach, but harsh coastal environments as well. Can you tell us what it takes to design something that's built to last?
Yeah, so I would say about 80 to 90% of our design effort and work was dedicated towards sort of making the product for the environment. The big thing was that designing a traffic light or designing a sensor on a life ring, that was pretty easy. That was probably, 10% of the work. What was really difficult is making something that can live out in a hurricane area, right? That experiences 150-mile-per-hour winds, flooding, salt. It's quite literally some of the most, unforgiving environmental areas on the planet. Building a product that can survive in that was very challenging. This came down to like having it all figured out. We could design something that kind of solves the problem, but actually putting it in the community and seeing how it performs is a whole different thing. You could, have everything can look good on paper. You could do all the designs and engineering work and everything, but until you actually put it out in the community and see how it performs, you really don't know. And I would say more so than maybe like being resilient to the weather, another thing that we've learned is like, this is in people's backyard. This is on their beach. There are people that love their beach and love their community, and you really have to respect that. So if you're going to add something to that environment, you need to make sure that also the community needs are being met. So that was an interesting thing we learned is, as you put things in a public setting, in places people really care about, you also have to be, you have to understand and empathize with what they want on their beach. You have to solve their problems, but not in a way where it takes away from their community. So that was another, big learning lesson on designing this thing is understanding the needs of the community as a whole, which you really can't learn by, just Googling online. You have to be in the community and kind of understand those needs.
So how does it work? Because I was looking at how does the wind affects the color of the lights, and how does all of that translate to the condition?
So, how the light system works today is it connects to your local weather forecast. So, the National Weather Service actually does a lot of the heavy lifting for us, and they predict the winds and the waves and things like that. And we actually grab that forecast, and that's what changes the lights. So that really helps. Think back to the beach flag example. That really helps communities where beach flags maybe are remote and there's not somebody on the beach all the time to be constantly evaluating the conditions. So a big fallback wasn't just, a flagpole is difficult to change and all the time. It was also that there's not always somebody at the beach from the city or the fire department that can be monitoring conditions all the time, and conditions in one spot could be different in another. So how do you really manage that? And it really only takes, a certain situation to happen where someone can drown. So kind of being able to have it where it's locally tailored to the conditions on that beach and change based on that without really much input at all was the big innovation. It wasn't so much the traffic light, it was the fact that it changes based on conditions and it can kind of do it hands off. And if the local fire department or lifeguards decide that the conditions are different than what the weather service is saying, they have the ability to override the light and change it manually. So really it's about, empowering the local stakeholders to make that decision to keep people safe.
But it's interesting because my first thought, I'm just going to tell you my child thought when I looked at this. I said, if you can put these on cars, that would be so cool. And because I remember, because even though we may have radios in our cars and they might say, well, so, tornado, it just kind of tell you, but a lot of times we don't take it serious. We don't say, is it a red light or is it green light or is it a yellow light? We had a tornado in our home in Chattanooga, and the weather service kept going on and on and on. And, we was listening to it and it just kept going off. We're like, oh, this is fine. We continued to watch television, but we had, and it kept going on and on and on. And then once I said, something is not right. And by the time we got downstairs and looked out the back, the tornado was literally almost in our backyard. So I had to shut the windows, jump in the closet. But even though we did have a warning, but it wasn't like a red light, yellow light, or green light. So that will be something that I think will be an additional safety feature I think people will really take to.
Yeah, I do think that we talk about how busy life can be, how much information we're constantly getting with the internet and TV and all that. When warnings do come, people tend to drown them out. Think of like your tornado warning. I mean, it goes off. We test once a week. Sometimes it's more or less. You kind of just become numb to it. Oh, and then the actual tornado comes and it's like, oh, I thought it was a test.
Yeah.
So I think it's about sort of seeing is believing. And I think that's one thing that our traffic lights do is people see it and they kind of resonate with it. Is it perfect? Is it going to solve all the world's problems? No, but seeing it really makes people feel better. And the thing with online resources is there's so many websites, so much data, so much, especially with AI nowadays, compiling everything, and information can conflict. And is the information updated in a timely manner? People just kind of they don't really know where to turn. So when something does happen, it's best just to keep it simple, right? Just keep it simple so people can understand.
And that's what resonated with me. Soon as I saw that yellow, red, and green light, big bright light. Okay, this is good. I like this.
So, Jacob, tell us a little bit about your long-term vision for SwimSmart.
Yeah. So what we're going through right now, and we can publicly announce it because we were just awarded it, is a partnership with the Weather Service to actually improve the way that we predict weather at the beach. So right now, our lights change based on the forecasts that your weather office provides. But what we're looking to do is actually use technology to sense conditions in real time and then act accordingly. And then as conditions deteriorate, they get worse, actually notifying people, really cutting down on the noise, right? So really, we want to get you information only when it's critical, right? When you really need it. We don't want to be sending you spam and updates all the time. We want to be sending you that critical information. The other thing is to improve our lights. So the ability to actually forecast better the water conditions, the wave conditions, and pull that in to make our lights more effective. Now people are more likely to believe it, because just because the light says something, people may not always believe it. They may see the water and they're like, oh, that looks fine. The more we can tailor it to a specific community and make it react to conditions in real time, the more likely people are to believe it. So kind of like your example, Emmanuel, where the tornado's coming and until you saw it, it wasn't really all real. If we can make it where rather than like the day before or 12 hours before or 4 hours before, maybe it's an hour or two, enough to react, and seeing is believing. Would it be perfect if we could give people information a day or two in advance and they would act? Yes, but that's just not how people are, right? People, seeing is believing, and the
Hmm.
goal is to get ahead of that and make different decisions to remove themselves from those situations. So really about making the weather service better, making our lights better, and our warnings, so that people don't make the decision to get in the water when conditions are bad. And ultimately, that's what will keep people safe.
Yeah, that's great. And it is wonderful that others believe in your vision for the future because you still have partners and investors. So tell us a little bit about, I know you said it's a community involvement and your community wants business to be successful, but tell us how you prepared yourself for that first round of investing.
Yeah, that so investment is raising capital is a very challenging endeavor. It's not a very easy thing to do, but the thing that we learned is kind of really relying on your ecosystem. So really your local community, their partners, it can usually be 2 or 3 steps removed. So, but it kind of starts in your community. They can help open up doors and introduce you to people that have more of an interest in the community succeeding. Certainly your business has to make money and it has to generate a return and all that great stuff. But once you have people that can kind of vouch for you and say, "Hey, this is a great product. We've been working on it a long time. It really benefit the community." It's a people business like anything else. You know, if you can have people that stand behind you and vouch for you, you can raise the money. But what also they want to see is they want to see that you've put in the work, right? You've put in the work yourself. You've listened to your customers or listened to the local community, and you're actually solving something that they need. They want to see that you've implemented it, you've learned from it, you've made the product better. They want to see a path to growth and success. And really, so it's more about kind of putting in the work early, paying your dues and really seeing it through those early stages to then give them the confidence that, okay, this is somebody that's serious and that there's a lot of people behind. And that's somebody that I think can take it to the next level. Right. Having an idea, a misconception is having ideas great. It's sort of the spark, the starting point to starting a business. But until you implement it and implement it consistently, um, it's just an idea. So implementing it is kind of that is the due diligence that the investors do in and of itself, right? When they evaluate your company, they're trying to figure out, okay, can this thing make money? But if you're doing it out in the world and people are using it and people are excited about it, that's all the confidence they really need. So I would say, if you are trying to raise capital, the best first step you can do is actually just start doing it, learning from it, making your product better, and then it sort of speaks for itself.
Yeah, so let's go beyond technology. What keeps you motivated and keep you improving this year after year?
Well, to be honest, I'm very passionate about what I do. So I love my product. I love the problem we're solving, keeping people safe. We've had some literally our equipment is used in life and death situations, and we've had lives saved, like accountable, verifiable lives saved. We've had situations where people have drowned on our beach. So it's a very emotionally connected business. It's one of those things where I believe that this can make a difference and we can save people's lives. And what kind of started this all was at those conferences we went to when we were, in college. We talked to parents that lost their kids. We talked to family members that lost a loved one to drowning, and their stories were very, it was one of those things where it felt like, okay, what we're doing is making these people very happy and making a difference. And that is something kind of deeper than it was like, all right, we're doing this business to make as much money as possible. So it was a really big grounding force that kind of told us this is something that's important, something that really needs to happen in the world. So I would say really that is kind of what's kept me so determined to get through this and give me that belief that we can actually make a difference. Because when you've got people that are that strongly behind you, that are that supportive, it's really contagious, and it's hard to give up at that point.
But what was a defining moment in your life that created that will and that burning desire? And I know you said when you was in college, but if you kind of go back, even in your childhood, it
Mhm.
may have been a mentor, it could have been a granddad, it could have been anybody. If you can go back and figure out where that passion, where did you start to really feel that burning desire to serve or to do something, or you knew something had to be done? Could you put a pinpoint to that?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. If I could soul search that well, I could write a book on it. But I think that I see some parallels. When I was growing up, I actually my father lived in Panama City Beach, Florida. And Panama City it has some drowning problems. It's improved a lot. Their safety standards have come up tremendously, and it's great. But historically, they've struggled with drownings, and that was something where I was exposed at a young age to water safety in general. So I don't know if that's necessarily the catalyst that kicked it off, but I've always kind of been a tinker, an inventor, maybe not inventor in the sense of like, you know, patents, this and that, but I always loved building things. I loved working on technology and kind of solving problems. Another big thing I've always been like is I like doing my own thing. I'm very kind of like a self starter. I'm sort of independent in that way. So I saw this as an opportunity to kind of pave my own path and do something that I thought was valuable. So I think that really it's not always a personality thing, but entrepreneurs they tend to have a common personality where they're very enthusiastic, motivated. They believe in their vision, they believe in their idea, and nobody's going to tell them otherwise, right? So I
Mhm.
think the hardest learning lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs have is learning to take feedback, making your thing better, having that humility that you don't have it all figured out. But yeah, I would say in terms of what got me here, there's definitely some underpinnings of my childhood, but also I think it's just a personality thing. I really do.
Yeah. The exciting thing about entrepreneurs in general, as you said, you're solving real world problems. So, something people actually need a solution for, it needs to be solved. So, innovation isn't just a cool idea, it's creating something useful that makes life better. So, when you think about the decision to go this route versus going into other employment, what thing stands out to you as, you know what? That's why I did this.
I think it kind of comes back to the personality thing and kind of really having this motivation, this self-starter interest in kind of going my own path. But the big thing was that conference, like being involved at a young age and really learning from a lot of people that were really passionate about water safety, cared about it, people that lost loved ones. I think an environment, an ecosystem like that is really, why I do what I do. And really, I think that's where a lot of businesses come out. They start as an idea in a small room of people that are really passionate about something, care about something, and are experiencing problems. Somebody wants to help and think they can do more. So that's really where we came out of as well is all these people were very passionate about it, really wanted to change things. And this is the way that I saw that I could do it.
Wow, that is fantastic. Well, if anybody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they be able to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, Jacob Soter, Soter. So you can find me on LinkedIn, as well as our website at swimsmarttech.com. Those two places you can find us, and we post on LinkedIn a lot, so you can follow where our company's heading. And yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions.
Well, Jacob, it is so nice to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing. And I can just feel that passion and that energy. You bring a lot to the world, and you definitely brought a lot to our listeners here on the podcast. So today we talked about why innovation doesn't stop after the startup phase. It's what keeps a business growing, improving, and staying relevant long term. So we heard from Jason Soter today, the founder of SwimSmart Technologies, and how real innovation solves real problems, and how his smart beach safety stations help prevent drownings with clear real-time warnings. This stood out as great innovation. It's reliable, it's something you can trust, and it's being built from the work in the real world. So, not pretend, the real world. So, whether you're building a startup or running a business that's been around for decades, the message is the same. Keep innovating, keep learning, and keep improving. Thank you, Jacob, for joining us today and sharing your insights on innovation and technology.
As a young man, I want to say thank you because we are looking to you guys for our future, and we're looking for young entrepreneurs that have a passion and that cares. So I just want to say, keep up the good work, keep doing what you're doing, and I'm just so thankful that was able to meet.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I really appreciate this opportunity, and yeah, I'm happy to help however I can.
Great. And thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to more details, please, and share it with someone who's building, growing, and improving a business right now. And remember, innovation isn't just for startups, it's for life. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to More Details, Please, presented by Emmanuel and Angela Williams from Detail Experts, the mobile steam cleaning company dedicated to protecting the planet. Be sure to subscribe to More Details, Please, on your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow us on Facebook at Detail Experts and visit detailexperts.net. That's DETAILXPERTS.net. We hope you've gained some valuable insights from our conversations today. Stay driven by curiosity, and we'll bring you more details next time.